There is a portrait in the Palace of Versailles that no one talks about. It hangs in a corridor rarely visited by tourists, small, unremarkable at first glance. It shows a nun in full habit, black robes, white coif, her face turned slightly toward the viewer. Her skin is dark, darker than any other portrait in the palace. The painting is labeled simply Louise Marie Thérèse, religious of the Order of Saint Benedict. No birth date, no family name, no explanation. But there are whispers that have persisted for over 300 years. Whispers that this woman was the secret daughter of the most powerful king in European history, that she was hidden away because of the color of her skin, that she spent her entire life locked behind convent walls, not out of devotion, but out of shame. This is the story of Louise Marie Thérèse, the Black Nun of Moret. And the question that still haunts historians: was she the illegitimate daughter of Louis XIV, the Sun King? France, 1658. Louis XIV has been king for 15 years. He is 20 years old, young, virile, obsessed with power, art, and women. He is married to Maria Theresa of Spain, a political marriage, loveless, arranged to seal peace between France and Spain. But Louis does not believe in fidelity. He believes in spectacle, in conquest, in taking what he desires. And what he desires are mistresses. By 1658, he has already taken several. The most famous is Louise de la Vallière, sweet, timid, deeply in love with him. But there is another woman in the court, one whose presence is documented but whose role remains unclear. Her name appears in royal household records simply as the Moorish woman or the black servant girl. Some historians believe her name was Moret. Others say she had no documented name at all. What we know is this: she was brought to the French court as a child, likely from North Africa or the Caribbean. She was a gift, a curiosity, an exotic ornament for the amusement of the aristocracy. She was given to the Queen Mother, Anne of Austria, and somehow she came to the attention of the king. In 1664, a child is born, not at Versailles, not in Paris, but in a small convent in the town of Moret-sur-Loing. A daughter, she is baptized immediately. The record exists. The baptism certificate is still preserved in the parish archives. It reads, Louise Marie Thérèse, born of unknown parents. Unknown parents, this is the language used for abandoned children, for bastards, for those whose lineage must be hidden. But this child is not abandoned in the usual sense. She is placed immediately in the care of Benedictine nuns. She is provided for, financially supported. By whom? The records do not say, but the money comes regularly, substantial amounts, enough to ensure she wants for nothing material. Except freedom. The town of Moret-sur-Loing is small, quiet, 60 kilometers southeast of Paris. The convent there is respectable but unremarkable. It houses 30 or 40 nuns, women from minor nobility, women whose families paid for their placement. But Louise Marie Thérèse is different. From the moment she arrives as an infant, she is kept separate. She is raised within the convent walls, but she is not treated like the other children who sometimes board there temporarily. She is permanent. By age 7, it is clear she will never leave. The nuns are instructed, by whom we do not know, to educate her well. She learns to read and write in French and Latin. She learns music, embroidery, the skills of a noble lady, but she is not a noble lady. She is a curiosity, because her skin is dark. In 17th century France, there are very few people of African descent. Those who exist are servants, entertainers, objects of fascination. They are not nuns, they are not educated, they are not provided for by anonymous royal benefactors, unless there is a reason to hide them. In 1680, something strange happens. Louise Marie Thérèse is 16 years old. She has lived her entire life in the convent. She has never left Moret. She has never been to court. She has never seen Paris. But suddenly, there are visitors, high-ranking visitors, court officials, ladies of the royal household. They come in unmarked carriages. They do not announce themselves publicly. They come to see her. We have now one account, written decades later by a woman who claimed to have been at the convent, describes one of these visits. A noblewoman arrives. She is heavily veiled. She asks to speak with Louise Marie Thérèse privately. The two women sit in the convent parlor for over an hour. The noblewoman weeps. She gives the girl a necklace, a small gold cross. She never identifies herself. When she leaves, the abbess forbids anyone from speaking of the visit. But rumors spread among the nuns, among the townspeople. Who would visit a nun in secret and weep? A mother, that is who. But if this woman is Louise Marie Thérèse's mother, why has she never claimed her? Why has she left her daughter in a convent for 16 years? The answer depends on who the father is. Let us return to Louis XIV. By 1680, he is at the height of his power. He has transformed France into the dominant European nation. He has built Versailles into a monument of unparalleled grandeur. He controls everything: his court, his government, his image. An image is everything. Louis XIV is obsessed with his legacy, with how he will be remembered. He commissions hundreds of portraits, sculptures, tapestries, all depicting him as semi-divine, the Sun King, the center of all light and power. He cannot afford scandal. He cannot afford anything that tarnishes his carefully constructed mythology. And a child with dark skin, born of a liaison with a servant, a woman with no status, no name, no acceptable lineage, that would be a problem. Not because Louis lacks illegitimate children, he has several. He acknowledges some of them, he legitimizes them, gives them titles, estates, positions. But those children are white, born of noble women, mistresses whose status makes the indiscretion acceptable, almost fashionable. A black child is different. A black child cannot be displayed, cannot be acknowledged, cannot be integrated into the myth. A black child must be hidden. In 1686, Louise Marie Thérèse takes her final vows. She becomes a full member of the Benedictine order. Sister Louise Marie Thérèse. She is 22 years old. She has spent her entire life in the convent. And now that life is permanent, she will never marry, never have children, never leave. The ceremony is attended by an unusual number of court dignitaries. This is documented. Their names appear in records. Why would high-ranking members of the royal court travel to a small provincial convent for the profession of an ordinary nun? They would not. Unless she is not ordinary. After she takes her vows, the visits stop. The money continues. But the mysterious veiled women, the court officials, they disappear. Louise Marie Thérèse has fulfilled her purpose. She has been silenced, made permanent, locked away forever under the guise of religious devotion. She is no longer a problem. She is no longer a secret that might escape. She is simply erased. For the next 40 years, Louise Marie Thérèse lives in the convent. She follows the routine. Prayers at dawn, work in the garden, silence during meals, vespers at dusk. She is known among the nuns as pious, obedient, kind, but she is also known as solitary. She keeps to herself. She does not share her history because she has been taught that her history is shame. There are accounts, again written much later, that suggest Louise Marie Thérèse knew who her father was, that she had been told quietly by the abbess or perhaps by one of those mysterious visitors that she was the daughter of the king. But she had also been told that this fact must never be spoken, that her existence was a burden, that her skin was a mark of sin. Imagine that. Imagine being told you are the child of the most powerful man in the world, and that this is your curse. In 1730, Louise Marie Thérèse dies. She is 66 years old. She has lived her entire life within the walls of the Moret convent. The death record is brief. Sister Louise Marie Thérèse, religious of the Order of Saint Benedict, died of natural causes. No family is listed, no birthplace, no parents. She is buried in the convent cemetery. No marker, no stone with her name, just earth. But here is the strange part. After her death, the rumors do not stop. They intensify. Within a decade, people are openly speculating about the Black Nun of Moret. Pamphlets are printed. Gossip circulates through Paris salons. The rumors reach such a level that in 1740, the French government issues an official denial. A statement is released. The woman known as Louise Marie Thérèse was not the daughter of His Majesty Louis XIV. This rumor is false and malicious. But here is the question. Why would the government bother to deny a rumor about a woman who had been dead for 10 years. Why would they care? Unless there was truth to it, unless the rumor was dangerous. The evidence is circumstantial, but it is substantial. First, the baptism record. Born of unknown parents. This language is used for royal bastards who must be hidden. Second, the financial support. For 66 years, someone paid for Louise Marie Thérèse's care. Substantial sums. Only the crown had that kind of money and motivation. Third, the visitors. High-ranking court officials do not visit provincial nuns unless there is a connection to the crown. Fourth, the timing. Louise Marie Thérèse was born in 1664. This coincides with the period when Louis XIV was involved with several women at court, including servants and lower-status mistresses. Fifth, the official denial. The government does not deny false rumors, it denies true ones. But there is one piece of evidence that complicates everything. The portrait. The portrait of Louise Marie Thérèse hangs in Versailles. It was commissioned, painted by a royal artist, paid for by the crown. Why would the crown commission a portrait of a nobody? Of a nun with no family, no status, no importance? They would not, unless she was someone. But here is the contradiction. If the crown wanted to hide her, why would they commission a portrait? Why would they hang it in the palace? Some historians suggest the portrait was commissioned after her death, as a quiet acknowledgement, a small, hidden admission of guilt. Others suggest it was painted during her lifetime, but hidden away, only displayed later when everyone involved was dead. The portrait itself is unremarkable, technically competent but not extraordinary. Louise Marie Thérèse gazes out calmly. Her expression is neutral, resigned perhaps, but her skin is undeniably dark, and that makes the portrait extraordinary. Because in all of Versailles, in all the thousands of paintings, sculptures, and tapestries, there is no other portrait like it. No other person of African descent depicted with this level of dignity, of individuality. She is not a servant in the background, not an exotic curiosity. She is the subject, the focus, and she is dressed as a Benedictine nun, a position of respect, of religious authority. This is not how you depict a shameful secret, unless the shame is not hers, unless the shame belongs to those who hid her. The truth is, we will never know for certain who Louise Marie Thérèse was. The records are too incomplete, the evidence too circumstantial, the silence too deliberate. But we know this: she existed, she lived for 66 years. She was hidden away in a convent from birth to death, and someone went to great lengths to make sure she stayed hidden. Someone powerful, someone with the resources to pay for her silence, someone with a reason to keep her existence quiet. The most likely candidate is Louis XIV, the Sun King, the man who controlled France with absolute power, the man who could not afford a secret that threatened his carefully constructed image. But whether he was her father or not, the larger truth remains. Louise Marie Thérèse was erased, not through violence, not through scandal, but through silence. She was given a life of material comfort. She was educated, fed, clothed, protected. But she was never free. She was never acknowledged. She was never allowed to be anything other than a secret. And when she died, she was buried without a name, without a family, without a history, because that is how power protects itself, not through dramatic acts of cruelty, but through quiet, systematic erasure. Today, tourists walk through Versailles by the millions. They admire the Hall of Mirrors, the gardens, the gold leaf and marble. They see paintings of Louis XIV in all his glory. The Sun King, radiant, powerful, divine. Very few of them see the portrait of Louise Marie Thérèse. It is too small, too out of the way, too easy to miss, and perhaps that is exactly how it was intended. A portrait that exists but does not exist. A woman who lived but whose life was never allowed to matter. A secret hidden in plain sight. The Black Nun of Moret. A woman whose existence asks uncomfortable questions about power, race, and the price of silence. Was she the daughter of Louis XIV? We will never know for certain, but we know she was someone. And someone decided she was too inconvenient to acknowledge. So they put her behind walls, gave her a habit, called it devotion, and made sure no one would ask questions. History is full of names: kings, queens, generals, artists. People whose lives were recorded, celebrated, immortalized. But for every name we know, there are thousands we do not. People who were deliberately forgotten, erased not because they were unimportant, but because they were too important, because their existence threatened the story those in power wanted to tell. Louise Marie Thérèse is one of those people. A footnote, a rumor, a portrait no one looks at. But she was real. She lived. She breathed. She prayed in that convent for 66 years, and no one asked her story. Until now. History does not bury its secrets in darkness. It buries them in plain sight. In portraits no one looks at, in records filed away, in silences that become so normal, we forget to question them. At Dark Ages Chronicles, we find those silences. We read the documents no one examines. We ask the questions no one wants answered, because the stories that were deliberately erased are often the ones that matter most. If you want to hear more forgotten histories, stories of people who were written out, locked away, or deliberately silenced, subscribe to this channel. This is Dark Ages Chronicles, where forgotten voices find their audience.